So today's session is to help give you a sneak preview of what to expect from the DRBF's first virtual conference. We're disappointed that we aren't meeting together in Boston this year, but we are glad that there are resources and ways for us to connect virtually across time zones and across the globe. And I think that this format will actually have a lot of pros, a lot of benefits that people might not anticipate in the virtual space. So we want to try to maximize those opportunities until we can meet again in person. Some general tips to prepare for a smooth start is to consider logging on to a larger device. If you have a larger screen that you can plug your laptop into, this will help you to view both the presentation and the chat window simultaneously. The chat function is going to be a very important component of the interactive nature of the virtual experience. So if you're using an iPad or a phone, that chat window is going to be very small and it'll be hard for you to keep up with the speed of conversation as we move through each session. I also recommend that you check your equipment. A lot of people like to use headphones, and that is a very useful tool for being able to tune out sounds that are happening around you and really be present for the conference. But you want to make sure that your headphone is working well and that you have good connection with your device so that the sound levels are coming through in a way that helps you be fully engaged in the session. We will have some opportunities to be on screen for our networking sessions. These are optional. And so in that scenario, you'll want to make sure that your camera is working as well. I do recommend that you consider the browser that you're using. Google Chrome is recommended by Matchbox, which is the hosting company. So you may want to consider downloading it if you don't already have it. And that might help work out any little rough spots that might occur during the streaming. Similarly, you should also check your Wi-Fi. Make sure that you have good connection. I say Wi-Fi, but you may be hardwired. You may consider turning off other devices that are taking up some of your bandwidth, and that will help the smoothness of the video streaming. Matchbox will have technical people on hand the entire event, so you will have someone that you can connect with if you're having technical difficulties, and they can help you troubleshoot. I also recommend that you take some time today or tomorrow to look over the schedule and take note of any sessions that you don't want to miss live. It is true that sometimes people may have an important business meeting or other activity, or even a time zone challenge that just means that you miss the first or the last session of the day. And that is fine. You will have the opportunity to view the sessions on demand after they're streamed. However, you'll miss that live chat component. And that really is a differentiator for the virtual experience. You can interact with the speakers while they're giving their presentation. You can interact with other attendees. And I have attended several conferences, industry conferences in the past few months, and found this to be an invaluable part of the experience. It really takes it to a new level, being able to interact in real time with the speakers. So keep that in mind as you look over the schedule and select those ones that are don't miss for you. As a brief overview of the schedule, day one is a masterclass on effective techniques for decision writing. So this is really geared for the dispute board practitioner. Now, we have members and people who have signed up for this conference who are dispute board users. They are the end users who may not find as much value to this particular session, but we do have such a strong core base of people who are practitioners serving on boards actively or hoping to serve on boards soon. And so we hope that this will be an opportunity for you to gain some practical skills and get some insight. The first session is done by a professional writing expert. She works for a law firm, but does presentations in the academic environment as well as the business environment. We shared with her some dispute board decisions that some of our members have written. So she used that in putting together her presentation. So it is very much geared towards the dispute board environment, not just general writing tips, but that context is included in her presentation. Then we also have a presentation from an expert witness, and then a panel discussion with an owner's representative and a contractor's representative talking about what happens when they receive the decision, what they're looking for, and their advice to dispute board practitioners when they're working on their decision writing. And lastly, a panel discussion or a two-person discussion with a representative from the American Arbitration Association, who's going to talk about what happens when, on the unfortunate situation of the dispute moving on to arbitration, their insight on the decision writing process when they're receiving it. Day 2 is the official start of the conference, and we'll kick it off in traditional style with a welcome from Andy Griffiths, the president of the executive board, and a keynote session. Then we'll have several sessions that run concurrently or run in order with interactive chats, downloads, so copies of speeches, PowerPoints, presentations, or key takeaways from panel discussions that will be available for you to save to your desktop. We've also organized some networking social time. So we have 3 sessions pre-conference and 1 session post. The 3 sessions pre-conference are going to be Zoom rooms like we're in today, where everyone will be on screen and you will have the opportunity to interact with other DRBF colleagues. We'll have a host for each room with some themes, so you can self-select the theme that most interests you and connect with your colleagues there. At the end of the day, we will have a live session doing a recap of the day, and we will stay in that room for the social hour afterwards. So it'll be a chance to extend discussion about the topics that have been raised throughout the day, to talk about new things that people are interested in, and just share some social time. Day 3 will continue in a similar manner. We'll kick off with some networking, 3 networking rooms in the pre-session, then a keynote, a few conference sessions, and then a live Zoom meeting where we again review the issues of the day. We will make some announcements, some DRBF announcements, including revealing the recipient of this year's Al Matthews Award for Dispute Board Excellence. We will conclude with that networking hour afterwards. So I do encourage you all to stay on and continue to connect with your colleagues. Now, you have probably received this first email from Matchbox, and you'll be receiving a second one from Matchbox. And the thing that I really wanted to point out here is that there is a video. If you look in the please note section of the second email, there's a hyperlink for a tutorial on how to use the chat. It's just a short little YouTube video, but I highly recommend that you take some time to check that out. It'll give you some useful guidance on how to interact with the platform, including having some of the visuals for you to see. There is, of course, in the first email, the opportunity for you to log in, check your password, and all of those administrative details so that you'll be ready to go on Wednesday. So when you first log into the platform, you do have a chance to go in and update your profile. So you'll see I've tried to highlight that. I have uploaded a photo of myself. This will show in the chat in a little round circle. So people will be able to recognize me more easily throughout the chat. You can also make sure that your name and your email are displaying properly in the way that you would like. I know sometimes we might use someone else in the household's computer, and we have had people log on to DRBF events with their spouse's name, their child's name, or in one occasion we had someone who was called Mr. Quarantine. This was the early days of COVID, and he wasn't sure how to change his name to his proper name. So I do encourage you to take a look at that in advance, but you will have a chance during the sessions to change that profile, and I'll show you another way you can do that as well. So here's the screen of what a chat would look like, and in the bottom left corner of the chat, there's a little button that's circled here, and it looks like a person. That is where you can, during the sessions, go in and change your name if you need to. There's also a pin button if you want to pause the chat. Sometimes it gets moving quickly, and so people like to pause it because they want to respond to someone, but just remember to unpin. So that's sort of an advanced technique. You want to make sure if you do use it, that you unpin so that you can keep up with the flow of conversation. Oh, I missed a little tip I have here, and that is if you think that you're going to be uploading your photo on the day, I do recommend that you pre-select your photo and have it easily accessible, maybe saved to your desktop, and that'll save you some time from hunting to find your most recent headshot to add to your profile. So once you get logged in, here's what the session will look like for each day, or what a tab will look like for each day. So I've selected October 29th, Thursday, since that is our first conference day. A couple of things that I wanted to point out to you here. You can check your local time. We have set all of our sessions using UTC, Universal Time Coordinated, because all of our attendees are in different time zones. This way you have a baseline to find out what your local time is, but we want to make it easy for you. So there is this button on each session that tells you the start time for that session. When you click on it, it opens up a converter that adjusts to your local time. So that's a useful tool for you to use. You'll see here that we also have a green button to launch the Zoom. So when you decide to tune in for the optional coffee hour before the conference starts, that's where you're going to click on the button. You'll see here we have 3 rooms set up. We'll be updating those with the themes so that you can select on the day the room that you'd like to join. If you need to dial in, you'll see in the top there is a green highlight that is a hyperlink so that you can find the dial-in information if you're not going to use the audio available through your computer, but instead dial in through a telephone. Now, each session has resources. So here is an example. You'll see in the green bar the name of the session, and then beneath that, the tools that are available for download. So if I were to click on Legal Writing Tips for Engineers, that's going to open up the presentation from that professional writer on the first day, and you'll be able to download that and save it to your desktop. There is another place where you can access those resources. This is an example. This is not a DRBF person, but this is a Matchbox person who's just giving a little demo here. But if you look to the right, you'll see the masterclass in writing techniques. And if you look under the description, under the session speaker's name is the handout. So there will be a hyperlink there where you can download. So you don't have to go to the resources page while you're watching the session. If you want to download it, it'll be available to you right on the same screen. But if you decide to download it afterwards, you know that you can also go to the resources page to download all of those materials. During the conference, we invite you to share on social media. We have a vibrant community on LinkedIn, including a DRBF group. We have a Facebook page, Instagram, and Twitter, and I know many of our members have accounts in all of those places and a wide range of connections in the industry. So we invite you to be a thought leader and a connector in the dispute board community and talk about your experience during the event. We do have a hashtag, DRBF Connections, and you'll see that sprinkled throughout the session. So you don't have to write it down now. We'll make sure that it's front and center for you. Now, post-conference, we will be sending some evaluation surveys. It's really important to us to hear your feedback. We're doing this for you, the end user. So we want to hear the good and the bad about your experience with this platform, with the content, with the presenters. All of that is really useful for us. So at the end of each day, we will have a link where you can just spend a few moments online ticking a few boxes for us and letting us know how you felt about the conference. And then at the end, on day 3, we'll send a more comprehensive survey, which just covers overall how you felt about the experience. And it's also an opportunity for you to give us some feedback. So you note the last item on this slide is about giving us your ideas. We are planning webinars, training workshops, conferences next year. We're going to be using all of the tools available. So we'll have more virtual events. We'll have some hybrid events where some people will be in person and some will be participating virtually over the screen. And we do hope to also have some in-person events as well, although those may be primarily local events in places where that is safe to do so. So we'd like to have your input, your ideas on topics, speakers, someone you'd like to hear from or you've seen speak knowledgeably in another venue that you think would be great for the DRBF community, and partners that can help us really elevate our offerings in 2021. So keep that in mind as you're experiencing the conference this week and thinking about what you'd like to hear from us in the future. After the conference, you also may want to go back and rewatch sessions on demand. I think this is a really useful tool and something for you to keep in mind as you're engaging during the conference. It might be a little bit of a new experience to have speakers presenting and also have the chat going on. There's a lot of activity that can be happening in the chat that can pull you away a little bit from the presentation. So I would recommend that you don't worry about taking personal notes on the presentations, but really listen to the presentation and engage in the chat, and then know that you can go back afterwards and watch those sessions on demand if you would like to go back and make your own personal notes about what you're hearing or revisit something that one of the speakers said. Again, you'll be able to download those resources, the sample presentations and documents that the presenters have made available for you. After the event, we will send you a copy of the chat and the attendees contact list, things like that that can help you continue to connect with the people that you have engaged with throughout the conference. So now I'm going to turn this over to a Q&A portion and stop sharing my screen and invite our attendees today to turn on your video, turn on your audio, and let me know what questions you have about the upcoming event.
May I put the first question, and just how much time is foreseen for each day? It starts at 2 o'clock UTC, but how many hours are you planning?
Correct. It runs about 3.5 hours on the first day and about 4.5 hours on days 2 and 3, not counting the social times before and after. With the social time, you can drop in and out as you please. We've set them to open, for example, on Thursday, when the conference kicks off at 14 UTC, we will open the networking room at 13:15 UTC. And the idea is for it to run about a half hour, maybe a little bit over if you're finishing up a key point, but we want you to have that time to sign out and then click into the start of the introductions and keynote at the top of the hour. John Westland has popped a question into the chat about getting an Outlook invitation sent for each individual session. So right now it's just blocking off the whole time on the calendar and would like to have that single invitation. I'll tell you that you're not the first person to ask this. I've had 2 other DRBF members ask me the same thing on Friday, and I did send some individual Outlook invites to them. So I would be happy to send one to you, John. But if there are other people on this call who would like to do so, you can pop your name in the chat or you can email me afterwards. I think most everyone has my email. It's arusso@drb.org. And I would be happy to get you in on that Outlook invite to make it a little easier to auto sync to your personal calendars. All right, any other questions?
And good morning, and thank you for your efforts leading up to this. You guys have done a great job. In fact, it looks like it's a real first-class operation here going on. But for those of us who are a little bit behind the scene or behind the times in this, just a couple administrative questions. How do we get our picture added to the whole program here? Not that anybody would want to see what we look like, but if somebody did, is there a way to do that simply?
So when you log into Matchbox, you'll have the opportunity to update your profile, and there's a little camera icon, and that's where you upload your photo within the platform. Now for these Zoom rooms like we're in right now, and this is what we'll be using for the end of day sessions and for the networking ones, you can move your cursor over to the lower left corner of your screen, and you'll see the option for doing the settings. So you can do connect to your camera so that you're live, or you can add a photo. So here's an example. When I'm not on video, I have a photo, which displays with my name. So that's another place that you can add a photo for these Zoom experiences. Does that answer your question, Ken?
Yeah, part of it. Let me continue just a minute. My hardware. Do we need to buy some hardware to our system? I have no way to take a picture of myself. Maybe that's because, and maybe that's a good thing.
No.
Volker probably would not want to come if my picture was going to be there, but.
No, Ken, we'd love to see your smiling face. So what I would suggest is, do you have a smartphone?
My wife does, that she rents out.
So you get Betty to take a picture of you on the smartphone and to email it to you. And then you'll have a current photo that you can save to your desktop. And when it's time to upload, you can just upload that file from your desktop.
Okay, thank you. That's a good idea. Yeah, I'll have to talk to her about that, see if she's willing to do that. But thank you very much, Ann. Okay, thanks.
All right, very good. Well, I can't take a picture of you from all the way in North Carolina because I know you're in Florida, but if you can't get her, maybe you can get a friend or a grandchild to help you out.
Yeah, that's, the grandchildren are the more cooperative with grandpa sometimes, so that's a good idea.
I understand that well. All right, other questions?
And for those of us that are attorneys, is it possible to get CLE credits for the event?
We will issue a certificate upon request, and it will state the number of hours, and it'll say the nice vague may be accepted for continuing education credits, depending on who you're submitting to. DRBF events have, particularly our workshops, have been approved for CLEs, but I can't say for sure whether your state would approve it based on the particular course that we're offering this time. But we're happy to provide the certificate so that you can hopefully get those credits.
Okay, thank you.
Good thing.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think the professional engineer organizations, you have to initiate the group has to initiate a request to have these things
Right.
given credit for
So
continuing education for engineers. So that's a little harder, I think.
that's true, Ken. We do have that approval for our DRBF Administration and Practice Workshop that we host each year in Florida. So the Florida Engineering Association and the bar both approve that particular program. But we have not done that in every state because we don't offer that workshop in every state on an annual basis the way we do in Florida, where we have a high demand.
You also have to do that in the current year of the 2-year program. You have to get it. So even if you took the administration course years ago, you can't go back and try to dredge
Right.
that up from the past and get credit for that. But that's good. Thank you.
Sure thing. Other questions?
Just is the whole thing more, intended to serve for the United States and North America, or is it
It's a great
really?
question. It's a great question, Volker, and I'm glad you asked. We did design this event for all members, although we did put a prioritization on our members who are in the Americas, both North and South America, Europe and Africa, because that's where we have the highest density of members in a time zone that's feasible. We do have members in Australia and Asia, and it will be difficult for them to participate live because of the time zone variance. We do have a couple of speakers that we pre-recorded, one from Australia, one from China. So they are able to participate as speakers and hopefully will be in the chat, but it is more difficult for them to participate in a live manner. So that's how we've organized it. If you look over the topics and the speakers, you'll see we have a broad range. Now, the first day, the workshop is very heavily loaded with speakers from Region 1, the US, although there are some people who are working globally, like Patricia Galloway and some others who are speaking there. And then when you look at the topics on day 2, you'll see there's a topic that is very US-centric, the issue of admissibility. Most people in other parts of the world aren't even sure what we mean when we talk about admissibility, but I think it comes out and is a way to understand US practice a little bit better by listening to that session. And Lindy Patterson participates as an international person in that particular topic. We also have the issue of enforcement, which is really an international topic, less of a focus in the US, but also something that I think our colleagues in the US can learn from our international colleagues. So the program is primarily designed to have something for everyone in those regions. And hopefully, I know Ken, who's on this call, has always been very complimentary of being a US person attending an international conference and the things that he learns that deepen his knowledge of the dispute board practice. Similarly, Volker, I think you've expressed the same thing when you come to the US conferences, even though the practice might have some differences to what you're experiencing on a daily basis, you pick up some nuance and things that help make you a more knowledgeable and experienced practitioner. So we're looking for that same experience in this virtual format.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you. Very good. Thank you.
Dennis, you look like you're in outer space there. Hope you're doing well. You have your mute on, but
Yeah, thanks. Good to see you.
you too. So this is another Zoom feature. Dennis and I are both using virtual backdrops. So mine has a little bit of DRBF branding, of course, and Dennis is maybe demonstrating his passion for the stars, but those can be useful as well and fun. We do hope we'll have a little fun this week at the conference. Are there any other questions that folks have?
And if someone missed the first 5 minutes of your introduction today, and
Yes.
they would, in fact, if they would like to go through this entire chat, and because there were some good questions and answers, is there a way that we can play this again over?
Absolutely. Yep. So I've been recording the whole time. And once we conclude, we will package that video and load it onto the DRBF's YouTube channel. And then I will send it out to everyone who's registered for the conference so that folks can go back and rewatch it or watch it fresh if they weren't able to join us today. And hopefully it'll be a useful tool for getting ready for Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay, great. Again, I think you guys are doing a great job, and I think the more experience we get in worldwide DRBF practices and people and cultures, the better off we are. And so I think it's a very valuable. It's the best $200 I'll spend this year, I'm sure. Certainly better than.
I'm gonna have to quote you on that one. Thank you, Ken. I always like a good testimonial. Very good, very good. Well, if there are no further questions, we can conclude. Let's see anything else in the chat. I know a few have dropped off already. Georgiana, have I covered everything well? You've been an avid conference organizer and attendee. Is there anything you think I've missed?
Oh, you're perfect. But I'm sure we will find something on the day to panic about.
Well, the good news is we have a professional team on board, the Matchbox experts, who will be able to handhold anybody who has any technical details or connection issues. And I'm looking forward to just engaging with everyone through the platform, in the meeting rooms and in the chats. So
I already used the DRBF connections, Mark. It's working.
very good. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yes, I've seen a few social media shares. One of our speakers posted on his blog over the weekend. So it's nice to see the activity, people getting energized for the event ahead. All right, well, it's been a pleasure to see you all. John, Rabab, Alfonso, I see you on the screen, but we haven't spoken. Michael, thank you all for participating today. Mr. Papworth, always a pleasure to see you. John Papworth's one of our speakers, and you won't want to miss his session. So as I mentioned in one of the tips, review the schedule and see which ones you want to attend, and John Papworth's is a must-see.